Hello and welcome to day 141 in the Not Alone Today chronological Bible reading plan. Today we are in 1 Kings chapter 14. We continue from verse 21 all the way through chapter 16, verse 20. Then we go to 2 Chronicles chapters 10 and 11. We're switching to the contemporary English version for this week.
1 Kings chapter 14, verse 21. Rehoboam, son of Solomon, was 41 years old when he became king of Judah, and he ruled 17 years from Jerusalem, the city where the Lord had chosen to be worshipped. His mother, Naamah, was from Ammon.
The people of Judah disobeyed the Lord and made him even angrier than their ancestors had. They also built their own local shrines and stone images of foreign gods, and they set up sacred poles for worshipping the goddess Asherah on every hill and in the shade of large trees. Even worse, they allowed prostitutes at the shrines and followed the disgusting customs of the foreign nations that the Lord had forced out of Canaan.
After Rehoboam had been king for 4 years, King Shishak of Egypt attacked Jerusalem. He took everything of value from the temple and the palace, including Solomon's gold shields.
Rehoboam had bronze shields made to replace the gold ones, and he ordered the guards at the city gates to keep them safe. Whenever Rehoboam went to the Lord's temple, the guards carried the shields, but they always took them back to the guard room as soon as it was finished.
Everything else Rehoboam did while he was king is written in the history of the kings of Judah. He and Jeroboam were constantly at war. Rehoboam's mother, Naamah, was from Ammon, but when Rehoboam died, he was buried beside his ancestors in Jerusalem. His son, Abijam, then became king.
Chapter 15. Abijam became king of Judah in Jeroboam's 18th year as king of Israel, and he ruled from Jerusalem for 3 years. His mother was Maacah, the daughter of Abishalom.
Abijam did not truly obey the Lord his God as his ancestor David had done. Instead, he was sinful just like his father Rehoboam. David had always obeyed the Lord's command by doing right, except in the case of Uriah. And since Abijam was David's great-grandson, the Lord kept Jerusalem safe and let Abijam have a son who would be the next king.
The war that had broken out between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continued during the time that Abijam was king.
Everything else Abijam did while he was king is written in the history of the kings of Judah. Abijam died and was buried in Jerusalem, and his son Asa became king.
Asa became king of Judah in the 20th year of Jeroboam's rule in Israel, and he ruled 41 years from Jerusalem. His grandmother was Maacah, the daughter of Abishalom.
Asa obeyed the Lord, as David had done. He forced the prostitutes at the shrines to leave the country, and he got rid of the idols his ancestors had made. His own grandmother, Maacah, had made an idol of Asherah, and Asa took it and burned it in the Kidron Valley. Then he removed Maacah from her position as queen mother.
As long as Asa lived, he was completely faithful to the Lord, even though he did not destroy the local shrines. He placed in the temple all the silver and gold objects that he and his father had dedicated to the Lord.
Asa was always at war with King Baasha of Israel. One time, Baasha invaded Judah and captured the town of Ramah. He started making the town stronger so he could put troops there to stop people from going in and out of Judah.
When Asa heard about this, he took the silver and gold from his palace and from the Lord's temple. He gave it to some of his officials and sent them to Damascus with this message for King Ben-Hadad of Syria. Our fathers signed a peace treaty. Why don't we do the same thing? This silver and gold is a present for you. So would you please break your treaty with Baasha and force him to leave my country?
Ben-Hadad did what Asa asked and sent the Syrian army into Israel. They captured the towns of Ijon, Dan, and Abel Beth Maacah, and the territories of Chinnereth and Naphtali. When Baasha heard about it, he left Ramah and went back to Tirzah.
Asa ordered everyone in Judah to carry away the stones and wood Baasha had used to strengthen the town of Ramah. Then he used these same stones and wood to fortify the town of Geba in the territory of Benjamin and the town of Mizpah.
Everything else Asa did whilst he was king, including his victories and the towns he rebuilt, is written in the history of the kings of Judah. When he got older, he had a foot disease. Asa died and was buried in the tomb of his ancestors in Jerusalem. His son, Jehoshaphat, then became king.
Nadab, son of Jeroboam, became king of Israel in Asa's second year as king of Judah, and he ruled 2 years. Nadab disobeyed the Lord by following the evil example of his father, who had caused the Israelites to sin.
Baasha, son of Ahijah, was from the tribe of Issachar, and he made plans to kill Nadab. When Nadab and his army went to attack the town of Gibbethon in Philistia, Baasha killed Nadab there. So in the 3rd year of Asa's rule, Baasha became king of Israel.
The Lord's prophet Ahijah had earlier said, "Not one man or boy in Jeroboam's family will be left alive." And as soon as Baasha became king, he killed everyone in Jeroboam's family, because Jeroboam had made the Lord God of Israel angry by sinning and causing the Israelites to sin.
Everything else Nadab did when he was king is written in the history of the kings of Israel.
King Asa of Judah and King Baasha of Israel were always at war.
Baasha, son of Ahijah, became king of Israel in Asa's 3rd year as king of Judah, and he ruled 24 years from Tirzah. Baasha also disobeyed the Lord by acting like Jeroboam, who caused the Israelites to sin.
Chapter 16. The Lord sent Jehu, son of Hanani, to say to Baasha, "Nobody knew who you were until I, the Lord, chose you to be the leader of my people Israel. And now you are acting exactly like Jeroboam by causing the Israelites to sin. What you've done has made me so angry that I will destroy you and your family, just as I did the family of Jeroboam. Dogs will eat the bodies of your relatives who die in town, and vultures will eat the bodies of those who die in the country."
Baasha made the Lord very angry, and that's why the Lord gave Jehu this message for Baasha and his family. Baasha constantly disobeyed the Lord by following Jeroboam's sinful example. But even worse, he killed everyone in Jeroboam's family.
Everything else Baasha did while he was king, including his brave deeds, is written in the history of the kings of Israel. Baasha died and was buried in Tirzah, and his son Elah became king.
Elah, son of Baasha, became king of Israel after Asa had been king of Judah for 25 years, and he ruled from Tirzah for 2 years.
Zimri commanded half of Elah's chariots and made plans to kill Elah.
One day, Elah was in Tirzah, getting drunk at the home of Asa, his prime minister, when Zimri went there and killed Elah. So Zimri became king in the 27th year of Asa's rule in Judah.
As soon as Zimri became king, he killed everyone in Baasha's family. Not one man or boy in his family was left alive. Even his close friends were killed. Baasha's family was completely wiped out, just as the Lord's prophet Jehu had warned. Baasha and Elah sinned and caused the Israelites to sin, and they made the Lord angry by worshipping idols.
Everything else Elah did while he was king is written in the history of the kings of Israel.
Zimri became king of Israel in Asa's 27th year as king of Judah, but he ruled only 7 days from Tirzah.
Israel's army was camped near Gibbethon in Philistia under the command of Omri. The soldiers heard that Zimri had killed Elah, and they made Omri their king that same day. At once, Omri and his army marched to Tirzah and attacked. When Zimri saw that the town was captured, he ran into the strongest part of the palace and killed himself by setting it on fire. Zimri had disobeyed the Lord by following the evil example of Jeroboam, who had caused the Israelites to sin.
Everything else Zimri did while he was king, including his rebellion against Elah, is written in the history of the kings of Israel.
2 Chronicles chapter 10. Rehoboam went to Shechem, where everyone was waiting to crown him king.
Jeroboam, son of Nebat, heard what was happening, and he returned from Egypt, where he had gone to hide from Solomon. The people from the northern tribes of Israel sent for him. Then together they went to Rehoboam and said, "Your father forced us to work very hard. But if you make our work easier, we will serve you and do whatever you ask."
Rehoboam replied, "Come back in 3 days for my answer." So the people left.
Rehoboam went to some leaders who had been his father's senior officials, and he asked them, "What should I tell these people?"
They answered, "If you want them to serve and obey you, then you should be kind and promise to make their work easier."
But Rehoboam refused their advice and went to the younger men who had grown up with him and were now his officials. He asked, "What do you think I should say to these people who asked me to make their work easier?"
His younger advisors said, "Here's what we think you should say to them. Compared to me, my father was weak. He made you work hard, but I will make you work even harder. He punished you with whips, but I'll use whips with pieces of sharp metal."
3 days later, Jeroboam and the others came back. Rehoboam ignored the advice of the older advisors. He spoke bluntly and told them exactly what his own advisors had suggested. He said, "My father made you work hard, but I'll make you work even harder. He punished you with whips, but I'll use whips with pieces of sharp metal."
When the people realized that Rehoboam would not listen to them, they shouted, "We don't have to be loyal to David's family. We can do what we want. Come on, people of Israel, let's go home. Rehoboam can rule his own people."
Adoniram was in charge of the workforce, and Rehoboam sent him to talk to the people. But they stoned him to death. Then Rehoboam ran to his chariot and hurried back to Jerusalem.
Everyone from Israel's northern tribes went home, leaving Rehoboam to rule only the people from Judah. And since that day, the people of Israel had been opposed to David's descendants in Judah. All of this happened just as Ahijah, the Lord's prophet from Shiloh, had told Jeroboam.
Chapter 11. After Rehoboam returned to Jerusalem, he decided to attack Israel and regain control of the whole country. So he called together 180,000 soldiers from the tribes of Judah and Benjamin.
Meanwhile, the Lord had told Shemaiah the prophet to tell Rehoboam and everybody from Judah and Benjamin, "The Lord warns you not to go to war against the people of the northern tribes. They're all your relatives. Go home. The Lord is the one who made these things happen."
Rehoboam and his army obeyed the Lord's message and did not attack Jeroboam and his troops.
Rehoboam ruled from Jerusalem, and he had several cities in Judah turned into fortresses, so he could use them to defend his country. These cities included Bethlehem, Etham, Tekoa, Beth-zor, Soko, Adullam, Gath, Merashah, Ziph, Adoraim, Lachish, Azekah, Zoran, Ahijalon, and Hebron. After he had fortified these cities in the territories of Judah and Benjamin, he assigned an army commander to each of them and stocked them with supplies of food, olive oil, and wine, as well as with shields and spears. He used these fortified cities to keep control of Judah and Benjamin.
The priests and Levites from the northern tribes of Israel gave their support to King Rehoboam. And since Jeroboam and the kings of Israel that followed him would not allow any Levites to serve as priests, most Levites left their towns and pasture lands in Israel and moved to Jerusalem and other towns in Judah. Jeroboam chose his own priests to serve at the local shrines in Israel and at the places of worship where he had set up statues of goat demons and of calves.
But some of the people from Israel wanted to worship the Lord God, just as their ancestors had done. So they followed the priests and Levites to Jerusalem, where they could offer sacrifices to the Lord. For the next 3 years, they lived in Judah and were loyal to Rehoboam and his kingdom, just as they had been loyal to David and Solomon.
Rehoboam married Mahalath, whose father was Jerimoth, son of David, and whose mother was Abihail, the daughter of Eliab and granddaughter of Jesse. Rehoboam and Mahalath had 3 sons, Jeush, Shemariah, and Zaham. Then Rehoboam married Maacah, the daughter of Absalom. Their sons were Abijah, Attai, Ziza, and Shelomith.
Rehoboam had 18 wives, and he also married 60 other women, and he was the father of 28 sons and 60 daughters. Rehoboam loved his wife Maacah the most, so he chose their oldest son, Abijah, to be the next king. Rehoboam was wise enough to put one of his sons in charge of each fortified city in his kingdom. He gave them all the supplies they needed and found wives for every one of them. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. So today we have read both from Kings and Chronicles, and we are beginning to have the cycle of repeated narratives. Something that we've read in Kings, we read it in Chronicles, and vice versa. We began at 1 Kings chapter 14, from verse 21, where we saw the story of King Rehoboam of Judah summarized, and then the story of King Abijah, who took over from Rehoboam's son. His reign was also summarized. He ruled for only 3 years in Judah. And then Asa ruled after the death of Abijah in Judah, and he ruled for 41 years. Of course, because of the lengthy rule of Asa in Judah, kings were being changed in Israel within that period. So King Nadab of Israel, son of Jeroboam, became king while Asa was just beginning his tenure. And then shortly after that, Baasha became king in Israel and ruled for 24 years. And afterwards, Elah became king in Israel and he ruled for 2 years. And then Zimri became king and ruled for only 7 days in Israel. And so those were the kings of Israel that ruled while Asa was king of Judah for 41 years. Then we come to 2 Chronicles, chapters 10 and 11. In chapter 10, we saw again the account that we have read before in 1 Kings, a more detailed account of Rehoboam's reign, the story that led to the eventual split of the northern and southern kingdom. And now Shemaiah the prophet warned Rehoboam and his army not to go and fight the Israelites. They obeyed at that time, but we know from the account in 1 Kings that actually all through the rest of their years, both the northern and the southern kingdoms were constantly at war with each other. We are told of how Rehoboam in chapter 11 built fortified cities in Judah, and how he would go on to make each of his sons leaders of each of those fortified cities that he built. One detail that we saw in this account in chapter 11 that we didn't see in 1 Kings chapter 12 was the fact that the priests and Levites from the northern tribes, of course, since Jeroboam was not going to allow the worship of the true God of Israel, they made their way to the south, to Judah, to continue to serve and worship in the temple. And not only the priests, but also some minority amongst the people who truly desired to worship the true God of Israel went down to the south, to Judah, to live and to worship there and to stay faithful to King Rehoboam. And that's the summary of what we've read for today. What stood out to you? Let's go back to 1 Kings 14 from verse 21 to the end. Anything stood out to you?
What stood out to me in 1 Kings chapter 14 is how that after King Shishak had taken everything of value from the temple, including Solomon's gold shields, Rehoboam then made bronze shields. And in my head, I think even after Solomon had died, there must be enough money in Israel, isn't it? So why would he make bronze instead of gold? I just found that a bit curious. Like, was it because there was no money, or he just thinks there's no need to do gold ones like his father has done? Yeah, what stood out to you?
Yes, same thing. It's just interesting. I think for me, I see it as a statement regarding how much value that Solomon and now this is his son Rehoboam placed on these things. For Solomon, yes, he was wealthy, but even before he had that access to such great wisdom and wealth, we remember the generous sacrifice, the lavish sacrifice that he made, which he didn't have to, sacrificing 1,000 sheep, and that was what led to the dream that he had. where God gave him that blank check. But for Rehoboam, replacing gold, not even with silver, but with bronze, I think he makes a statement as to how much value he placed on the things of God.
And we read from previous chapters that at the time of Solomon, silver was common. So then to go to bronze, be like...
Yeah. Interesting. Chapter 15 of First Kings, what stood out to you?
What stood out to me is verse 14, how that even though Asa was completely faithful to God, he did not destroy the local shrines. And I wondered why. So he sent the prostitute away from the city. He tried to put things together, got rid of the idols they've made, but left the shrines.
Yeah, and
that's curious.
Very, very curious. That's exactly what I highlighted as well. And I think by way of application for me, what I see there is when you're dealing with an issue, deal with it completely or deal with it to the very roots. Because what he has done is simply to open the door for a continuation or a resurgence of idolatry in that sense. And I think we're still going to get to an account of his reign in Chronicles as well, that gives us even more insights into his own latter life as well, how that he did not stay faithful to the very, very, very end. So yeah, he's quite a curious ruler, but ruled for a very long time, 41 years. And within that period, I think Israel would have changed kings how many times? About 4 times. They had Nadab, they had Baasha, they had Elah, they had Zimri, all while Asa was still the king in Judah. Yeah. In chapter 16, what stood out to you?
In chapter 16, what stood out to me was a curious way Zimri killed himself. When I read that he ran to the strongest part of the palace, I thought, oh, that's wise. And then I heard that he killed himself by setting it on fire. Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, and that makes him so far the shortest reigning king in Israel, ruled for 1 week. And it's interesting that they still say everything else Zimri did while he was king, including his rebellion against Elah, is written in the history of the kings of Israel. So even in 7 days, there's still a lot to record. But yeah. Then in 2 Chronicles chapters 10 and 11, we've literally read this in 1 Kings 12, almost word for word. But I don't know if there's anything that stood out to you that from those 2 chapters that you might want to spotlight.
Nothing apart from the number of Rehoboam's children. 28 sons and 60 daughters. That's a lot of children to have oversight over.
When you have 18 wives and 60 prostitutes or concubines, that's what happens. All right, we'll pick the story up again on day 142 as we move on to 2 Chronicles chapters 12 all the way to chapter 16. But till then, just remember,
you're not alone.
Today, God bless you.